F1 is one of the most complex racing series in the world, yet many people don't know the rules, regulations, or layout of the grid. Today, I hope to explain all of the great unknowns of this amazing sport on F1 Fridays. Let's get it! First, we're going to start out with the layout of the F1 season. F1 consists of 10 teams with 2 drivers per team, with each team competing to see who can accumulate the most points over a given amount of races within a season. The highest scoring team will win the Constructors' Championship. F1 teams often favor one more experienced driver who's often better, with the other driver being a clear number 2. Example of this being Lewis and Valtteri or Max and Checo. Other teams favor their drivers equally based on how each driver is driving throughout the season. Examples being Fernando and Esteban or Lewis and Nico in 2016. Both drivers on each team drive the exact same car, so there should be no reason for you to perform less than your teammate. But as I mentioned before, there is often a number 1 driver who's clearly performing better than the number 2 driver. Examples being Vettel and Webber or Schumacher and Barrichello. The drivers of each team also compete on an individual level for the driver's title or championship. This means that you can have a team win the Constructors' Championship while a driver from another team wins the driver's title. This is not common, but it's definitely possible. The last time this happened was when Lewis Hamilton won the driver's title in 2008, while the Ferrari team of Felipe Massa and Kimi Räikkönen took home the Constructors' Championship that very same year. This has only happened 7 other times in F1 history, with all those occurrences being before the year 2000. A quick PS note, when I reference the grid, I'm really just referencing the track. The grid can also refer to the lineup spots that the cars are placed, but most F1 casuals refer to the grid as just the whole track in general. F1 weekends consist of a Friday practice, a Saturday qualifying session where the fastest times determine where you start on Sunday, and Sunday, which is the race day, baby. On a sprint weekend, the qualifying is held on Friday, and then the drivers compete in a shorter sprint race on Saturday, which determines the grid placement for the actual race, which is held on Sunday. Now that we know a good layout of the grid, we are now moving on to the rules and regulations of F1. F1 is governed by the FIA, who decides all the rules and regulations for each up-and-coming F1 season. The FIA regulates lots of things throughout F1, one of them being the amount of spending a team can do. Previous to the 2020 season, there was no spending cap, but the FIA changed that to make all the teams more competitive. This only regulates how much money is spent on the actual car itself. This doesn't account for the team's facilities, driver pay, or management pay, meaning that richer teams with good infrastructure can excel in ways, as well leaving room for smaller teams with smaller budgets to also find loopholes to excel. The FIA also regulates what parts each team or constructor can use on their cars. The FIA uses the illegal parts list so teams don't just use or copy the winning cars from the previous years. Teams often try to stretch the rules of copying other cars to gain a competitive advantage, with clear examples being Racing Point and Mercedes in the 2020 season. The car of Racing Point looked very similar to the previous year's winning Mercedes, and was even dubbed the Pink Mercedes. But Racing Point was not charged with any violations of the rules, because none of the parts they used were on the illegal parts list. The FIA will also try to implement the usage and non-usage of certain parts in order to promote more competitive racing. Examples being the engine change in 2014 from a V8 engine to a turbo hybrid V6, or the change of the front and rear wing from the current cars of this season to the new 2022 cars next season. The FIA often makes rule changes to promote more competitive racing, but sometimes makes rule changes to promote driver safety, such as the regulation of the Halo safety system that was implemented in 2018, and has since then saved many lives. The next key part of F1 is the points and scoring. The amount of points that an F1 driver can accumulate in each season is often the deciding factor of their F1 careers. The point system can be broken down as so. First place earning 25 points, second place earning 18 points, and third place earning 15 points, with all these drivers standing on the podium and earning a trophy. 4th through 10th place finishers also earn points, with 4th place earning 12 points, 5th place earning 10 points, 6th place earning 8 points, 7th place earning 6 points, 8th place earning 4 points, 9th place earning 2 points, and 10th place earning 1 point. The remaining 11th to 20th place drivers will receive no points. If a driver does finish within the top 10, he is then eligible to receive an extra point by setting the fastest lap throughout the duration of the race. Podiums, points, and lack of points is often a way that drivers are assessed, which leads us into the next and final section, teams and team standards. Over F1's history, there have been plenty of competitors at the top. The way teams form dominant eras is by adapting to new rule changes better than their competition. Clear examples being Red Bull's 4 constructors and drivers titles in a row, or Mercedes' 7 constructors and drivers titles in a row. The expectation for top teams such as Red Bull and Mercedes are to consistently earn podiums with hopes of consistently earning wins. The next top teams such as McLaren and Ferrari expect their drivers to consistently place within the top 6 in hopes to eventually score consistent podiums. Midfield teams such as Alpine, AlphaTauri, and Aston Martin are expected to place within the top 10 in hopes of developing into a top-tier team. And the teams at the bottom such as Williams, Alfa Romeo, and Haas just expect to develop their drivers with the small budgets they have. This is why George Russell, a young driver on Williams, is considered to be having such a stellar season even though halfway into the season he only has 4 points. George has arguably the worst car on the grid, yet he's still consistently placing high in qualifying and is oftentimes just missing out of the points. Drivers performing well at bottom and midfield teams are often rewarded for their skill and promoted to higher teams, such as Valtteri to Mercedes or Daniel to Red Bull. Team standards are also a reason that Red Bull dropped their driver Alex Albon last year. He was consistently within the top 6, but his lack of podiums was the reason they dropped him after only a year and a half with the team. Another example of a driver underperforming was Nico Hülkenberg, who held the F1 record for most amount of races without a podium. He was later dropped by Renault after the 2020 season. F1 is an amazing sport, and I hope you guys enjoyed my insane breakdown of the complexity of the sport. If you guys want to watch more, you can head on over to Netflix and watch the documentary Drive to Survive. If you have any more suggestions on what I should do next on F1 Fridays, let me know. Until then, peace out and good luck.